Welcome to the Nevcast, where three bros talk business, art, justice, and the pursuit of Jesus.
Any day above ground is a good day.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and kiss 30 minutes goodbye with Peter Nevland,
Dave Nevland,
and
Rasheed. Welcome back to the Nevcast. We are still talking with Roy H. Williams III and Rasheed and me and Peter. And this has been really good, so we extended it out in a little bit extra time, so we're going to jump back in.
And you know, Peter, the thing that when Rasheed shared his thoughts, and I agree with you, Rasheed, by the way, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And what Peter said is the opposite of one good thing is very often another good thing. And a good example of that was justice and mercy, which Jesus spoke about. You know, justice is a good thing, but so is mercy. And if you're all justice and no mercy, that's off balance.
Yeah.
But if you're all mercy and no judgment, well, that's off balance. And so there's this weird tension between those two. Now, the opposite of freedom isn't really the law. The opposite of freedom is responsibility. And so, yes, I agree with Rasheed.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to do the right thing, even though we have freedom.
That's right.
So we have this freedom, but we also have a responsibility. And so the more responsibility you have, the less freedom you use. But you have complete freedom. And you can use that complete freedom if you want. But if you don't accept responsibility, then you're just a wild man doing wild things.
Yeah.
And so that tension between freedom and responsibility is exactly like the tension between justice and mercy. And there's another one that's kind of weird, which is honesty and loyalty. Honesty and loyalty are both good things, but they come into conflict very often.
Yes.
And you say, okay, you know, which way do I lean today? Which way am I going to go in this moment when these two things have come into conflict? And I think sometimes believers lose sight of that. They lose sight of the fact that two opposite things can both be good.
Yeah.
And like freedom and responsibility, and justice and mercy, and honesty and loyalty. So Rasheed, thank you for sharing that. I got a lot from it, and I think you brought a whole new perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul comes in and says, man, all things are lawful. I mean, he turns it on to all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. Because we're trying to feel like, what is the ultimate good? What is the ultimate good? I mean, God knows the ultimate good. If we live in relationship with God, we will be doing the ultimate good and won't have to try to figure it out as much on our own. We'll be living in the law of His light and the law of His goodness, if you could put it in those terms.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know that, you know, I remember Rasheed, you know, you and I, and some of our conversations, some of the things that you have said as far as, you know, we've talked about, okay, you've got this situation, you're dealing with it. And I would say, hey, well, have you talked to Jesus about it? And sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no, right? What happens when you go and talk to Jesus about it? What kind of things does He usually tell you?
Bunch of good stuff, man. Like, you know, bunch of stuff. I don't want to sound crazy or none of this stuff.
You don't sound crazy. I talk to Jesus all the time.
Yeah, I had a story. The other day I was in Galveston and I didn't know my way around going to a friend's house. And I had my phone, my GPS was broke. Make a long story short, and I prayed, well, I got to get to my friend's house. And it was just like crazy that I made it right over there because I'd been over there one time. And I said, I know that has to be God leading me up over there, you know. So, and just back to the law thing, I just think like now, like in society, man, like, and I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just seeing the way society is now, man. We come to a point in life where we just disrespect God and we defy God. So I just think that we have to start teaching laws to people who followers of God and saying, hey, man, we got to have something that we stand for. It's just like we took prayer out of school. And this is nothing to go at LGBT communities or nothing, but we legalized gay marriage, man. Like, that totally goes against what God stands for, man. Like, God didn't meant for a man and a man to be married. He destroyed the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. So I'm saying, why would we follow a way of life when we know God has destroyed before? So I'm saying now we living in modern day Babylon, and it's not me trying to be judgmental, because I used to live a street life. I used to live a gangster lifestyle, but I don't live a gangster lifestyle no more, because I know where it got me, where it took me to in life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I had a girl tell me one day, like, hey, you try to be a goody two-shoes and all of that, and you want to be a goody two-shoes. I said, no, I know where this lifestyle is taking me, so why am I going to go down this same path? And now you just think about, as much as we uphold the devil's laws, like when they legalize gay marriage, is like, come on, man, that's just like disrespect to God. If you look on social media, man, all this stuff, and I don't have a social media account, man, people don't have no respect for God at all. It's like we just really just chunk the middle finger up at God. Like, we don't care what we don't believe in you coming back. We gonna do what we want to do. But I think if we, like through the judicial system, if we put some of God's laws in there, man, we'll have a better society, man. But we done took it out. You know, I remember when we prayed in school, they say you can't even pray in school no more. So if these kids, these younger kids can't coming up, and me, I'm telling you from experience, man, well, God has brought me from and where I'm at today. So, and it didn't come from me because I'm just a dirty rag, man. You know, it's come from me following God, because when I was out there following the devil, you know, I was in and out of prison. I had a bad life going on, you know, so that's what I'm saying. We gotta start teaching the world, man, like they gotta have something to follow, and, you know, because if they don't know what's right or wrong, they gonna go out there and do what they want to do. Sure. You know, like our young kids today, man, it's sad to say it, man, but our young kids, man, is lost, man. Social media, man, is systematically destroyed, man, the minds of our youth, man. Like, if the stuff that goes on there, man, if I had a kid, if God ever blessed me with a kid, I wouldn't have a computer in my household. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that goes on there, but it all goes back to society, man. The people who legalize this marriages and stuff like that, and they got people thinking, look, we don't care what you do or what you do inside of your home, man. I don't have no problem with that. But don't come out here and put it on society and try to, you know, and kids who don't have a choice, you know what I'm saying, to come up and think that this stuff is cool. Because no, God said he frowns upon that. He said, I frown upon men trying to be women and women trying to be men. So, you know, so why would we just say, oh, it's okay to do? It's for free will. So we just because we have a free will don't mean that you can just go against God's laws. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
they need to see more Christians celebrating the goodness of God.
Well,
right?
That's
over
true.
And over again. And at the same time, Jesus didn't advocate overthrowing the Roman Empire. Yeah. The pagan, corrupt, slave-making Roman Empire. He never advocated overthrowing them, because he said, and he said it right to Pontius Pilate. He said, my kingdom's not a kingdom of this world.
Well, so it's interesting. You know, I'm thinking, I keep looking over. I've got this sheet of paper over next to me that I was talking to my counselor yesterday, and he gave me this little pamphlet to study, and it says that,
not the counselor, a human counselor.
Okay, yeah, right. That's right. Not. I wasn't talking to the
He's
Holy Spirit.
He's a good counselor, not the wonderful counselor.
Although I was talking to the Holy Spirit, but that's not the one that he didn't, you know, it didn't, this paper didn't suddenly materialize out of thin air.
Yeah,
that's what you
mean.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, good. We've now fulfilled the entertainment part of this broadcast.
Exactly.
Anyway, and at the top of it, the headline says, changing motivation from fear to love. And I think what we're talking about, so we've got this issue. Rasheed, you brought up an incredibly important issue. We need standards, and people in our society need to follow these standards and agree on them. The problem that comes in is, how do you get everybody to agree on God's standards? If we try to motivate people, if we enact laws and put punishments in place for people that do things wrong according to the law, now what we've got is we've got a motivation out there for fear. Mm-hmm. So how do we win people with love? Now, Roy, I mean, I didn't want to get into business and stuff, but you and I both are in this business of winning the heart, and the mind will follow.
Mind will make up reasons to justify what the heart has decided. Maybe
I can ask you this, and you could tell me, well, you could answer that, Peter, yourself if you want to. But if we were to apply that, if you were to apply what you're so skilled at as far as marketing to Christians, what would be the best way for Christians to win the hearts of society so that their minds would follow and their morals might follow?
Okay. Now, I'll tell you what I believe because I've thought about it for 44 years.
I knew it.
But it's very controversial.
Okay.
Right? Let me just put that out there.
Well, we love controversial people. And you're safe. This is a safe place. You are accepted here.
It's a safe space.
I'm a big fan of things like Jesus actually said.
Yes.
The Gospels.
Right.
I think a lot more sermons should come from the Gospels because, as we talked about twice already, if I be lifted up, Jesus said, then I'll draw all men to me. And like you said, that just means the cross. He means, hey, the more you talk about me.
Right.
And the stuff that I did, the stuff that I said, and the people I encouraged, and the people I helped. He said, the more you talk about me, people will go, I would follow a guy like that.
Yeah.
He said, now the more that you talk about, the stuff that's wrong with everybody, people aren't going to be attracted to that. So what happens is, I've always said God can raise his own children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We just got to introduce people to Jesus. And you can't introduce people to Jesus without talking about Jesus. And so this is the controversial part. I think there's way too many sermons today coming from the epistles. And I know I've heard it 10,000 times. Well, the Gospels are the milk of the word, and then the epistles are the meat of the word. The epistles were written to the church. And I'm going, yeah. Every time you start coming from the epistles, which is, Paul and the gang,
yeah,
you wind up talking about something other than Jesus. Okay, and I'm going,
right.
I really believe if we talk about Jesus more, and if we talk about who he was and what he did and what he said and what he accomplished and how he was, everybody's drawn to Jesus. Everybody's attracted to Jesus. I found an infinite number of people in my life who are against Christianity. As a matter of fact, they're against all religions completely.
Yes.
But when you ask them, all right, say, hey, what do you think about Jesus? Just the man Jesus.
Right.
And they go, well, Jesus is great. I like Jesus. And I'm like, okay,
yes.
let's just go with that. And so that's my take on it.
Yeah, that's good. This is very interesting. I was at the Poetry Slam. This was probably maybe 15 years ago, and I was talking to a lady who was a friend of mine that I'd met there, and she was gay. And so we started talking about the church and Jesus and stuff. And she had that similar sentiment to what you just said. And I said, she said, well, I just, look, I'm pretty sure that if I try to start going to church, people are going to tell me that I can't be gay. And I was like, that's valid. I'm sure you probably heard that a lot. I said, well, what about this? Let me throw this out there. What if, I've got a lot of stuff that's screwed up in my life that God hasn't told me to unscrew it up yet. And you've got more stuff than who knows what things that you have in your life and God that are screwed up and that are screwed up to God. God knows what to tell you is screwed up and what's not, and when and how to change it. What if we just agreed to follow Jesus together and to trust him that he's going to let us know what we need to change and when, because he loves you more than anybody else loves you?
Yeah.
I said, what do you think about that? And she said, well, yeah, I couldn't trust him that much. And I was sad. I was like, okay, well, at least it's an honest answer, and how is she going to learn to trust? Well, someone's going to have to love her. And I think, we see so many ways that people respond in ways maybe that we wish they wouldn't. And our usual answer is to try and, tell them the truth. It comes back to this honesty and loyalty thing. And in our family, Dave, you and I grew up in a good German family where if somebody's doing the wrong thing, you tell them the right thing, right? Well, that didn't always work. Once I got married, I found out that's not the best way, especially to somebody who has a completely different viewpoint. And Roy, you had been telling me some of that. You're like, you a lot of times you tend to think that, truth is this like non-negotiable thing, but sometimes it's more important to be loyal to someone than to tell them the truth. And I was like, dang it. Now I got to think about that. I think he might be right.
Peter, I was actually contemplating that this morning.
Yeah.
The very idea that whenever people give you what they call constructive criticism,
yes.
I've never been able to separate constructive just plain old criticism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
Criticism is criticism, and here's what makes criticism so very insidious, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It comes from an assumption of superior wisdom. Anytime somebody gives you advice, they're basically telling you, I'm smarter than you. And so criticism and advice, by its very nature, is insulting.
Yes.
And I'm going, the idea that, hey, so the Monday morning memo that will be coming out this coming Monday, okay?
Yeah.
October 11th. It's about encouragement. And it says, what type of generous are you? You can be generous with your money. You can be generous with your time. But there's very few people that are generous with their encouragement.
Yeah.
And the word, the prefix, en, okay, the first two letters of encouragement, come from the Latin through the French, and it basically means to cause to exist.
Nice.
And so to encourage is to cause courage to exist. And so when you give a person courage, it's because you encourage them. You tell them something about themselves that is true, and they know it's true. And you point it out to them, and you call it out in them, and you tell them, you're good at this. You're really good at this. You have a special ability to do this. I've seen this in you. And that builds people up. And I believe Jesus did that all the time. Absolutely. He saw those 12 knuckleheads, and he told them, I see something in you.
Right.
And if you follow me, here's what we're going to do together. And they said, all right. And so Jesus saw something in each of us. He saw something in Dave and you and Rasheed and me.
Yeah.
And he saw something maybe different in each of us. But it was enough for him to say, hey, look, let's go do this thing together. Let's live life together.
Right.
And so encouragement is what everybody needs. And as you've heard me say a million times, it's like, you know what? We give people advice, but nobody needs our advice nearly so much as they need our encouragement.
Absolutely.
That's true. That's so true right there. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that en prefix there reminds me of the name for God in the Old Testament, Yahweh. That there's I was reading about it, and basically, everyone knows it kind of means I am, the great I am. It really means like I exist, but even more than that, it says there's a connotation in it that doesn't just mean that I exist, but it means that to start a relationship with, like, so that I exist, I am starting a relationship with you. I am, and I'm starting a relationship with you. And this idea of en, to cause something to exist, to cause courage to exist, right? Encouragement, right? It's kind of like that word. And there's also an ancient belief about the way that people spoke.
It's like to birth.
In the Old Testament view of looking at things. That's why I think that the epistles are used so often, because people, it's easier for us to understand them because they're closer to our worldview. It's a Greek worldview as opposed to a Jewish or Hebrew worldview, and that's very foreign to the way that we think currently today. But this ancient
Western world, maybe
Western
world,
the
Eastern world.
That's true, Eastern world, right? Well, this ancient idea that when humans speak, for instance, if until a person's name was spoken, they don't actually exist, and that actually by the power of speaking our words, we actually cause things to exist. And that's why it was so aligned with when it says God spoke and the world existed. So they made him the originator. Moses in his story, his story that he crafted, I think with the help of the Holy Spirit, but made God the originator of speech, which was the original creative force of the universe and still is. And so this idea of encourage, right, to cause to exist, to cause courage to exist, it's almost like in the French, there's that prototypical little tool there to help people to create with, by having an N at the beginning of something. So anytime you're saying that, it's like almost I'm causing this quality to exist by it.
I mean, to bring it into life. Yeah.
Earlier I mentioned, Rasheed, that I was thinking about you this morning. Oh, yeah. And it was because here's how that happened, and here's what I was thinking about you. And I only share this to encourage you. What happened is Penny was on the phone. We sit outside on the back porch while it's still a little bit dark in the early morning hours every morning. And then I usually get up and come inside whenever her sister calls her. And so she has a sister in Oklahoma, and she calls every morning, and her and Penny talk for about 30 minutes. And so when she got off the phone with her sister, I said, well, what did Pam have to say today? And she said, well, they finally found Ronnie a car. They found a 2007 Toyota Matrix. And I said, well, good. I'm glad Ronnie finally got a car. And I remembered many years ago that one of my sons had a car that they gave you, and it made me think about you. And I said, that Rasheed, the thing that's special about Rasheed is he doesn't quit and he doesn't give up.
That's right.
Lots and lots of people, bad things happen. They go through hard times, get put in jail or something, have some catastrophe or some giant crisis or problem, and they give up. I said, man, Rasheed just doesn't do that. He just doesn't give up. He is just, no matter how bad things get, he'll power through and he'll come out the other side of it. And I was really honestly thinking about you this morning, Rasheed, and I was thinking about how durable you are, how resilient, how you can just always figure out a way to come out on the other side victorious. And I admire that about you. Yeah. And I just wanted to say that I'm glad you're on the call today. I didn't know you were going to be on the call, but I'm glad you are, because, like I said, I was thinking about you while it was still dark outside this morning.
Well, I appreciate that, man. You done put a big smile on my face over here, Mr. Williams, man.
See, the reason you're smiling is because you know it's true. You're like that.
It's true.
Right.
Most people aren't like that.
Right. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. Without God, man, and good people like y'all was around me, man, I probably would have gave up, man. But I just know giving up, man, that ain't the way out, man. I saw too many people give up. I had a homeboy who gave up like 4 or 5 months ago, killed his wife, killed her mama, shot the cop, and he's going to get ready to basically get the death penalty. He gave up in life. So I feel like, man, I got to keep going. I just can't throw in the towel. I can't do that, man. I got to keep always rolling, because I know it's a God out here. And you know what's crazy? I was reading this something that was in the Bible. I don't remember exactly what it was saying. These wasn't the words verbatim, but this ain't what it said verbatim, but it was saying something about like dogs. It said something about dogs outside of the gates of hell or something, sexually immoral people. And I asked this dude, he's considered a Christian scholar. So I said, man, what does it mean to God talking about there's going to be dogs outside the gates of hell? And he said, man, they were talking about people that live worse than dogs that just gave up on God. You got people who just gave up and say, oh, I believe in God, but they live worse than dogs, live worse than a dog. And I said, man, if God is out here, I know that it's going to get better. If you just keep going, but if you give up, man, you know it ain't gonna ever get better. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but I appreciate you noticing that in me, Mr. William. I tell a bunch of people about you, man.
Well, thank you. And listen, that's a good word that you shared. Right. Is there's lots of reasons not to give up, because giving up doesn't make it better. Giving up makes it worse.
That's right.
Right.
And I'll follow up what Roy was saying, Rasheed, and that you know, one of the other things that's so great about you is it's not that you just don't give up on yourself, you also don't give up on people. And, you know, I mean, we've talked about this, the guy that you just shared about. You've been going and visiting him and,
right.
you know, and speaking to him and encouraging him. And that, man, is so powerful, the way that you advocate for people and the way that you care for people who are in your life, no matter if they've screwed it up in the worst possible way. And that's not just the heart of somebody who doesn't give up. That's the heart of a father. That's the heart of really kind of a pastoral heart. That's God's heart in you coming out, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's right.
So.
Right. Yeah.
Y'all, go encourage someone today.
Absolutely. You know,
if you hear one thing from the Nevcast today,
celebrate. You got the freedom to encourage and give life and love to people.
Spend the time encouraging.
Let's stop trying to enforce the rules and telling people who's wrong and everything like that. And let's encourage people. Let's call the good out of each other, because anybody can say what's wrong, but it takes real maturity to look for the good and call it out and celebrate it and live it out together.
Right, yeah.
And thanks so much for being on the Nevcast, Roy.
I enjoyed it. Now it's good to have some time with Rasheed. It's always good to have time with the Nevlin brothers.
Thanks, man. Well, you can always check us out. Yeah, you can always check us out every Wednesday. That's when the new Nevcasts come up, and we will see you on the next episode.
Right on.
Bye. That's it for the Nevcast this time. Join us next week when we talk justice, business, and art in pursuit of Jesus. We will see you soon.